This story begins with a boy named Chen Yuan shopping at the supermarket, while authorities warned residents about new cases in which animals had started attacking people due to an unknown virus outbreak. He had gone to the supermarket to buy more supplies because he knew something bad was going to happen. People were talking about how new diseases were claiming the lives of many residents. After buying the supplies, he loaded them into his van and headed home because he had to prepare dinner for his younger sister, Hanin. While he was driving, his fiancée called him to tell him that she could get him a good job in exchange for leaving Hanin at the orphanage. He refused, because she was his most cherished family. Upon hearing this, his fiancée broke up with him, as she didn't want to take care of a baby for nothing. While he was distracted, an animal crossed the road. Due to the high speed of the vehicle, the car collided with the animal. He thought it must have been a stray dog, but upon closer inspection, he realized it was a sheep that was still alive with its brains exposed. The sheep moved away from the road and into the bushes. He was scared, but thought it was better not to call the police. After a while, he arrived home. As soon as he got there, his sister came running to greet him, along with their two dogs, Zob and Zohai. She was happy because he had brought a lot of things. He gave her a small bag, and both of them headed inside. On the way, Hanin told him that she had filled the barn with hay, changed the water, and watered the crops, and now she was very hungry. As they walked through the fields, Zob started eating the harvest. Hanin hit him and told him the harvest wasn't for him. On the way, they passed by the barn, and one of the bulls that had already been infected by the virus began to look at them aggressively. While preparing the meal, the radio informed them that tonight there would be the most spectacular total solar eclipse of the century. While they were eating, the reporter started the countdown, and the sky began to darken. The light went out and it became very cold. The dogs started barking, so they both went out of the house and were shocked to see a snowstorm in the middle of summer. He told Hanin to stay in the house while he went to lock up the cows and sheep. Along with Zohai, both of them headed toward the barn, but on the way the storm grew much stronger and the sun was completely blocked by the moon, causing a bright light to appear in the sky. While he was amazed by the beauty of the eclipse, Zohai sensed that something was wrong. He realized that the plants, the snowstorm, and the sun were all very strange. Zohai started barking to alert him that there was a mutant bull behind him. Thanks to the barking, he turned around and dodged the mutant bull's charge. He knew he wouldn't stand a chance in hand-to-hand combat against the bull, so he fled to find his compound bow. While he searched, the bull attacked Zohai. He grabbed his bow and aimed at the bull, and at that moment, a blue interface appeared to guide him. He was startled and quickly shot the 4 arrows he had at the mutant bull. Despite having 4 arrows in its head, the bull was still alive and ready to charge again. While he searched for more ammunition, a window appeared again, indicating that he had 0 arrows left. While he was distracted, the mutant bull seized the opportunity to charge at him. Zohai approached and began biting his pants, barking toward the house. He understood that if the cow had suddenly mutated, then Hanin was in danger. Inside the house, Zob had also mutated. She didn't know what was happening and tried to calm him down, but Zob became more aggressive and attempted to attack her. At that moment, Chen Yuan appeared and gave Zob a strong kick. He quickly grabbed Hangyi to take her to a safe place, as there was a lot of danger outside. After a few seconds, he arrived at a farm and another system window appeared, indicating that he had 4 lives within reach. He didn't know what this window was or why it had appeared, so he left Hen in the house and told her not to go outside, no matter what happened. The number of lives within reach increased to 5 and Zob attacked him from behind. Zohai quickly came to his aid, and while they fought, Tenran began to flee from the mutant bull. Along the way, he grabbed an axe and positioned himself in front of a tree. The mutant bull charged, but he narrowly dodged it at the last moment, causing the bull's horns to get stuck in the tree. Just as he was about to deliver the final blow to the mutant bull, Kobai appeared from behind and bit it in the neck. The bull took advantage of this moment to free itself and also charged at him, impaling him with its horns. As his eyes closed, another system window appeared, stating that the end of the world survival game was in progress, and more windows began to appear. Even on the brink of death, he was determined to defeat the mutant beasts to save Hanin, but it didn't take long before he lost consciousness, and another system window appeared, indicating that the final judgment game had successfully matched. The Apocalypse game loaded successfully and he was chosen as the player. He possessed a poorly ranked level 1 mansion, so the system rewarded him with an ability called the Eye of Truth. To level up the fortress, he needed 8 million points. He woke up but didn't understand how he was alive. He remembered being impaled by the bull's horn, and while his clothes were torn, the wound was gone. Looking around, he saw that the mutant bull's body was split in half and Kobai was unconscious. He didn't know what had happened after he lost consciousness, but the system informed him that this destructive power was beyond what humans could do. The system showed him that once he lost consciousness, his identity as a player was activated, granting him incredible power. With a single punch, he had knocked out Zobi, and with a single swing of the axe, he had decapitated the mutant bull. He had been dead, but his wounds were healed, and he had gained a power that wasn't his, thanks to the system. A window notified him that the game had loaded successfully, his shelter had been linked, the point center had been activated, and rewards for beginners had been distributed. A lightning bolt implanted information directly into his brain, informing him that the first round of the wave of destruction had ended, and the second wave was only 0 days away. His shelter was his only fortress he could rely on. His task as a player was to survive the apocalyptic game and turn his refuge into a stronger fortress. Zobi was unconscious, and according to the system, both he and the bull had mutated after accidentally eating poisonous plants. After the mutation, their bodies were stronger and their character had become very cruel. He wrapped Zobi's body and put it in a cage to prevent further attacks. He entered the barn and saw that the electrical system was still not restored and there was no mobile signal, but he still had the diesel generators. Using his mobile phone's light, he began searching for Hannah. After a while, he found her in a corner sleeping. She asked about Kobai, and he told her that Kobai was injured and couldn't meet with her right now. With reward points, he could buy some seeds that could be planted in poisoned soil, but these seeds were very expensive, and he currently didn't have many points. All supplies that had come into direct contact with the ground were already contaminated, and with the current disconnection, the situation outside wasn't going to change. He had to deal with all sources of contamination. He went down to the basement of his house, started the diesel generator, took one of the guns, and placed a walkie-talkie beside Hannon before leaving the house to head to the city. Along the way, all the mutant animals began chasing him because they were attracted to him. Then an armed van arrived and scared away the animals with a turret before accelerating to stop his car. A soldier aimed the turret at him. He was from the army stationed at the central base. The soldier informed him that going outside was very dangerous and that if he needed supplies, he could head to one of the designated supply points. The military was using planes and helicopters because there were many mutant animals. He was heading to the city because he was concerned about Zhang Li, his ex-fiancée. The city was in complete chaos, with only police cars patrolling the streets. There was only one ambulance left and the hospital had no more beds for patients. The emergency services had been deactivated because the current medical system was partially paralyzed and unable to cope with the side effects of the radioactive plants. The government had set up several supply acquisition offices throughout the city, and citizens had to stand in line, each with a purchase quota, but it was all chaotic. While some had nothing to eat, others fought over food. As he was on his way to Zhang's house, a van appeared in front of him, and a chubby man got out to sell him food because he had seen him scavenging around the warehouses. The protagonist had a feeling that something was wrong with the food and told the man that if he took a bite in front of him, he would buy everything. The man became nervous and tried to force his way through the window. The protagonist pulled out a gun and told him that, in this kind of business, nobody would blame him if he shot him. The man left resentfully because he was having a bad day. Chen Yuan finally arrived at his ex-fiancee's apartment. When he knocked on the door, she didn't respond, so he took the keys from under the mat and entered her home. She was a clean person, but her house was messy. She had eaten contaminated fruits and pills as she had purchased antibiotics from a disreputable pharmaceutical company. There were no traces of blood in the house, and the door lock showed no signs of being forced, so he didn't know where she had gone in this chaotic world. He returned to his farm on the outskirts of the city, and the system informed him that the bonus from the refuge skill called the Eye of Reality allowed him to see all objects and creatures as data. The level 1 refuge skill permitted him to remotely control the refuge. Even if he left it, he could perceive the real-time situation in the refuge and in all commercial products at any time. Currently, he didn't have many gains and his greenhouse was in ruins, but he planned to upgrade the farm items using points. While he was tilling the land, his sister alerted him that the seeds were sprouting at an incredible speed. These were radiation-resistant tomato seeds that took 48 hours to mature and were The tomatoes were radiation-proof. As they gained more points, both Hanan and he could survive in this apocalyptic world. He had taught Hanan several rules. She couldn't eat food given by anyone other than her older brother. She couldn't leave the farm without his consent. And if she discovered an animal with a strange condition, she should hide. She also had to take good care of Zohai and not let him eat randomly. A system window notified him that the anti-radiation crops were ripe and needed to be harvested as soon as possible. These anti-radiation tomatoes were rich in nutrition, and long-term consumption could significantly improve physical condition. He took a bite of one of the tomatoes and the fatigue from the work disappeared. Now, not only did he have food, but he also received attribute bonuses as the crops improved. In this system, everything worked with points. The number of points varied from one function to another, and the exchange system was the only source of points. The exchange system was mainly used for recovering crops, livestock, meat, and minerals, dividing them into different prices based on their levels. Radiation-resistant crops were worth 1 point. Ancient medicine crops were worth 100 points. Powerful divine-level crops were worth 1,000 points, and super god-level prophet crops were worth 1,000 points. The system provided a complete service from supply and distribution to recycling. With enough points, he could turn his farm into a first-class military base in the blink of an eye. The tomato harvest had gone very well, but the ancient medicine-grade crop harvest had only yielded 3 carrots because it had a maturity rate of only 10%. However, these carrots could eliminate all negative effects like poisoning and disease, including irreversible damage caused by them. He thought about selling 70% of the food and redeeming it for points, while keeping the rest in his backpack as a reserve. He sold 70% of the food and exchanged it for points, keeping the rest in his inventory. By recycling 200 grym, he obtained a total of 2,000 points. As a reward for completing his first recycling, the system awarded him the title of Master Recycler and a small recycling robot. He initially thought the small robot was useless, but in the blink of an eye, the tiny recycling robot processed everything. His consciousness was connected to the system, so the robot could directly perceive instructions from his brain. Seeing how powerful the farming robot was, he considered earning more points to exchange for a combat robot for Hanan's safety. He returned home and prepared chicken legs to celebrate the success of seed germination. Now they didn't have to hoard food, they could plant it and even share it. However, if a stranger found out they were growing food at home, they would be fined and banned from eating for 3 days. Chen Yuan gave the first chicken leg to Zohai as a reward for protecting them. Hanan was happy but also sad because Zobi wasn't with them. Tangran comforted her, saying that Zobi was injured and couldn't see her at the moment, but as soon as he got better, he would come back to play with her. An assistant window warned him that someone was trying to invade his house. Using facial scanning of the intruder, he saw that it was Uncle Nan. He went out to ask Uncle Nan why he had come. Uncle Nan had come to ask for a favor. His house had been robbed and all his food had been stolen. He couldn't afford to buy food from the supermarket because it was too expensive, so he had come to ask for some food. At first, Tianran refused because he didn't have many provisions, as the food he had planted had been destroyed by mutation. However, after hearing that Uncle Nan had asked many relatives for food and hadn't gotten anything, he gave him a bag of instant noodles he had left over. This food would only last him about 5 days. Although he didn't lack food now, in recent days people had become unpredictable, and he still had to learn to hide his secrets. At night, Hanan and Tianran went to Uncle Nan's house to get some more food because in the past he used to take care of their family. She remembered that he had a younger son who used to give her candy all the time. After a while they arrived in the city. The streets were very quiet. As they got out of the car, Tianran overheard Uncle Nan asking his son where he had gone yesterday. His son was vomiting blood. Both of them approached the window, and Hanan asked if Uncle Nan's son was going to die. He told her he was okay and not to look at him. The symptoms seemed as if he had accidentally eaten contaminated vegetables. At that moment, Tianran thought that he could be the perfect test subject to try the carrots. Desperate, Uncle Nan laid his son down, not knowing what to do. At that moment, a stone broke his window. Desperate, he tried to find the culprit, but his son pointed at the stone and told him that someone had thrown a bag of food. When he opened the bag, he found a note saying that if he wanted to save his son, he should feed him the carrot. Nan thought it couldn't be true, since not even the big hospitals could cure him. As his son's eyes closed, with his last strength he asked to try eating the carrot so he could die slowly. Uncle Nan gave the carrot to his son, and as soon as he ate it, he began to vomit blood. Slowly, he started to recover. Electricity was also restored and the mobile signal returned. Tianran picked up his phone and tried to call Lin Zhang, but her number was unavailable. She was unconscious in a van. The kidnappers had taken her phone and turned it off so she couldn't be traced. They were going to trade her for several months' worth of food. As they were returning home, Hanan mentioned that Tianran had been vomiting blood but improved immediately after eating the carrot. After his body improved, it changed from gray to blue in color. Upon hearing this, Tianran thought that she was a girl who loved animation and described things in a graphic way. At that moment, something jumped onto their car. It was a mutant monkey. Tianran swerved off the road and the monkey tried to attack him, but he pulled out his gun and shot it, causing it to fall onto the hood. He seized this opportunity, accelerated the car to ram the mutant monkey into a tree, then finished it off with the gun. Upon approaching the monkey, he saw that it had a serial number. This was unusual since there were no farms or zoos nearby. He suspected it might be linked to the Ran Pharmaceuticals. Both of them returned home, and Tianran told Hanan to watch cartoons while he attended to an important matter. He went up to the attic of their house where Zobi was. He gave Zobi a carrot to eat since it could eliminate toxins from toxic vegetables. A lightning bolt struck the house, causing Hanan to flee in fear and search for Tianran. She climbed up to the attic and seeing him from behind startled him, but at that moment she was shocked to see Zobi dead on the floor. With tears in her eyes, she asked if they had more carrots that could save lives. He told her that carrots couldn't save life forms that had already been infected with mutations, so Zobi was dead. The next day, they burned Zobi's body and buried him next to a tree. Hanan was deeply affected by the death of her dog and spent the entire day watching television. Meanwhile, Tianran went out to harvest the mature anti-radiation crops. In total, he harvested 500 ketudong of anti-radiation crops and 10 ketudong of ancient medicine. He sold all his crops and upgraded his dilapidated greenhouse to a level 2 greenhouse. The system warned him that his refuge's defense level was only at level 3, which could protect against small wild animals but posed a high risk. Therefore, it recommended that he build a defense system as soon as possible. Improving the security of the farm should be his top priority, as the current crop level was not very profitable in terms of point growth. Without hesitation, he upgraded the refuge's walls, installed wall-mounted electric grids, and bought a cruise radar. He was running low on points and needed to get some mechanical guards for Hanan. Currently, he didn't have enough points to buy them, so he decided to sell the grain from the storage, knowing that he could replenish it later if he ran out of points. With the points from selling the grain, he purchased a level 1 hummingbird and a level 2 bloodhound. The hummingbird had great precision and could patrol the area as a sniper, while the bloodhound had strong ground attack capabilities, making it the perfect guardian for Hanan. He returned home with Zobi, the bloodhound, and told Hanan that from now on, Zobi would follow her everywhere and protect her. In the offices of Ran Pharmaceuticals, a scientist informed the CEO Lang Tanu that subject number 7 was now capable of penetrating 5mm steel plates. The vice president, Ren, was not satisfied with the lack of medical equipment donations. Shanu was concerned that if Ren found out, she might report them. He ordered the scientist to instruct Chan to keep an eye on Ren, as he couldn't allow her to ruin his business plans. If this plan succeeded, he could gain a substantial fortune. The vice president quickly found out and went to the director's office to express her concern. She mentioned that the medical system in Nang was paralyzed and, as a company, they should guide employees to help the hospital instead of conducting experiments on animals. Shanu, being a businessman, aimed to make profits. He didn't believe that current medical methods could play a significant role in this global-level disease. Both of them could develop a solution and get rich from it. They agreed that if she could compare notes with the work and increase the workforce, the progress of this project would be much faster. She accepted, but with the condition of going to the laboratory and checking the progress. She arrived at the laboratory using a card given by one of the scientists. The lab director showed her that Subject 7 was the only one who hadn't gone insane, and after the experiment his power had multiplied by 10. One of the workers rushed in and explained to the director that they had a problem. He left as an emergency arose. Due to high security, the director left her alone in the room. She activated her earpiece and contacted one of her men to scan for a secret entrance. She entered the secret room and was shocked to see Subject 51. Back at the farm, Hanan and Tianran were harvesting corn. Since they had worked quite a bit, he prepared roasted corn for them, recalling that Hanan's appetite had his body data had surpassed his recent levels, likely due to the system's cultivation. After eating radiation-resistant vegetables, their body data had increased significantly. If she continued eating at this rate, he thought she would turn into a giant Barbie. While they were eating, a window notified him that they had a visitor. The visitor was Tan, who had come back with the food he had given him the other day. He had come to give Teen Ran some food as a thank you gesture for lending them instant noodles the other day. Teen Ran asked him where he had gotten the food, and Tan replied that someone with a kind heart had left it in his backyard. Tan had come to ask for the car since he had heard that in the city of Nun someone had opened a new market with many good things. He wanted Tan Ran to accompany him because he didn't have a driver's license and didn't know the way. Tan Ran was fine with taking him because he had originally planned to go to that market to inquire about the situation. Also, now he didn't have to worry about leaving Hanan alone since he had robot guards taking care of her. He told Hanan to stay at home and not open the door to strangers. In return, Tianran promised to bring her some candy. She replied that it was okay because her new dog Dubai was incredible, but she wanted to greet Tananad. She hid in the car and waved at Tan after seeing his body. She was impressed. At that moment, Tianran took her out of the car and they left. On the way, Tane took out his phone and started sending messages. When he noticed that Tianran was looking, he quickly put it away. Tane told him he didn't have enough money, so he was asking a friend for a loan via his mobile phone. While Hanan was watching TV, she remembered that Tane could also change color. The last time she had seen him, he was green, and now he was red. On the way, Teen Ran gave Tan some money because he had helped his family a lot in the past. Tan didn't want to accept it, but Teen Ran insisted and gave it to him. To reach the city, they had to follow the straight road, but just when it was time to turn, Tan took the wheel and told him that the straight road was blocked. He recommended taking the right road instead. Teen Ran found it strange because he had been going on this road all the time and it was a major road. Unless a natural disaster had occurred, it shouldn't be blocked. Nervously, Tan told him that a friend had told him the road was blocked. Tianran was suspicious, so he told Tan to call his friend because he wanted to hear it for himself. Tan said that if they didn't turn now, it would be too late, and he asked Tianran to trust him. Seeing his insistence, Tianran trusted him and turned onto the right road. In the distance, a man dressed as a guard knew that something had gone wrong and that Tan had betrayed them. However, he had already sent some men down the other road because he knew something like this might happen. While they were driving, Tan apologized to Tianran for betraying him. He explained that his father had been kidnapped by the men from Pharmaceutical. They had asked Tan to get Tianran away from the farm so they could capture Hanan and use her to obtain the cure for the mutation. At that moment, a car started following them at high speed. Teen Ran finally realized that the questions Tan had asked him earlier were meant to find out if the farm was protected. He planned to settle the score with Tan later, but for now he just wanted to eliminate all the guards who had entered the farm a few days ago. Tan was so hungry that he ate a contaminated apple that had come into contact with the ground. His father was thanking the gods because a bag of food had fallen from the sky and saved his life. He thought that if there really was a god, then this global catastrophe shouldn't have happened. The bag that had fallen from the sky had been delivered by someone who didn't want to be identified. He left his house and went to a friend's house, asking Tan to check the surveillance cameras at his house under the pretext that someone had broken in and stolen from him. He entered his friend's house, accessed the computer, and saw a van parked near his house. He knew whose it was. He quickly returned home and told his father that Tianran was the one who had saved him. He had planned to tell Ran Pharmaceuticals about the medication he had and that they were paying a lot of money for special medicines. He wanted them to be able to survive in this apocalyptic world because, with just one bag of food, they wouldn't last long. His father slapped him and told him that if he did this, he would condemn Tianran and his little sister. After fleeing for several minutes, 2 cars blocked the road, so Tianran stopped the car and got out with Tan. Then a man named Nan got out of one of the cars and told him that he knew he had the medicine for radiation poisoning. He asked Tianran to form an alliance because they wanted the medicine to sell and make money. He gave him 2 options. The first was to cooperate with them and together they would make money, and the second was to forcefully hand over the medicine. Tien Ran told him that he only had one medicine, and he had used it to cure Tan. Nan didn't believe this, so he took out his phone and ordered his men to enter the farm and force-feed his little sister a radioactive fruit. With a murderous look in his eyes, Tien Ran told them that he hated people who threatened him. He had planned to kill them all. Cooperating, Nan ordered his men to attack him and cut his tendons to let him die slowly. At the farm, Nan's men began to demolish the walls using an excavator. Furious, Tien Ran started to beat them up, and at the farm, Nan was throwing explosive rock. Thanks to the improved condition from consuming the supercrops, they were no match for him. Over the past 7 days, he had only been eating the supercrops, so his statistics were much better than those of an average adult. Not only had his strength and speed improved, but his bones were now much harder, and his nerve speed was much faster. He grew tired of using physical force and pulled out a gun to eliminate the guards, as he didn't consider them important. Nan managed to dodge the bullet and took cover behind a rock. At that moment, Tien Ran approached and opened his inventory to reload his guns. Then he eliminated the last guard at the farm. Hanan had taken care of all the intruders with the help of the robotic peps. She thought about hiding the bodies because if her brother found out she was a violent child, he might not like her anymore. Tien Ran eliminated everyone except Nan, who intended to torture him for information. Nan revealed that General Chang Yu was in charge of everything and kept it a secret. Currently, only the guards knew about this matter. Recently, he had a disagreement with another vice president, and now he was trying to use his authority to elevate his position to a higher level, to claim credit in front of the central office and expel the vice president from South City. The Ream Company had a monopoly in the South, but it remained only a subsidiary of a conglomerate. The vice president had a backer in the central office, and Tan Yu didn't dare to take this matter to the central office because if the information leaked, his reputation would be ruined. Tien Ran asked Nan to take him to Tanu. He called Tanu and told him that they had captured Tan Ran, but he only wanted to talk face-to-face and wanted to see Uncle Man Tanu. He agreed to meet at Warehouse 78. Tan disguised himself as a guard and the three of them headed to the warehouse. After a few minutes, they arrived at the warehouse and Tan told Tanu that the messenger had been knocked out and thrown from the car and Nan had a stomachache, so he had been asked to bring Tan Ran to the warehouse. Tan's father tried to warn them that if they spoke, no one would come out alive. Upon seeing this, Chai No knocked him to the ground, and his men began to beat him. At that moment, Tien Ran broke through the ceiling and pointed his gun at Taino. Taino thought that he had been betrayed by Nan. Then the protagonist asked him how he had become the head of Ran with such a low IQ, and Taino revealed that the man he found next to Tan was Nan. All of Tan Yu's guards rushed to help him, but they were eliminated by Tien Ran. After eliminating all the guards, Tien Ran also took down Tan Yu. Tan Yu and his father began to apologize for betraying him, but he had no intention of harming them, as he didn't consider it necessary. He told them to stack the bodies while he went to fetch the car. After a few minutes, they piled up all the bodies except for Nan's. As they approached Nan, he attacked Tan's father with a piece of glass to the leg. Then he knew he was going to die anyway, so he was willing to take one with him. He attacked Uncle Nan with the glass, but at that moment Tan appeared and took the full force of the attack. Tien Ran arrived immediately in the car and rammed Nan against the wall, using his last bit of strength. Tien gave Tien Ran some candies for Hanan and then lost his life. Uncle Man, in a fit of rage, took the glass and slowly ended Nan's life. Then, they burned down the warehouse and fled. In the Ran Pharmaceutical's offices, one of the men informed the vice president that Tan Yu had died and all the bodies had been burned. She knew Tan Yu had messed with the wrong person, but she was pleased and planned to celebrate tonight with several bottles of wine. Tan Yu Ran bought a bomb button and attached it to Uncle Nan to prevent him from betraying him in the future. They both returned to the farm and Han Yuran hid all the intruders' bodies, making excuses to avoid being discovered. However, Tan Yuran knew everything, so he told her that she didn't need to hide them because he didn't care about what she had done. He explained that she was his most important family, and he was also pleased to see that she could defend herself. She told him that she had started seeing bright lights emanating from people. Her brother was blue, Zohai was green, Tan was red, and Uncle Man was gray. Those with a red light were malicious people. She had gained this ability a week ago. thanks to the radiation-proof vegetables. The crops redeemed by the system had no side effects and had a very high mutation probability. Both Tien Ran and Han had eaten these foods for a few days, and their physical functions had improved. Han had developed the ability to see the emotions of other people. Her ability was very useful, so Tien Ran asked her to immediately alert him if she saw anyone with a red light from now on. After this conversation, they went to eat, and Tien Ran revealed to Hanan that, from now on, Uncle Nan would stay with them and help with their farming work. Uncle Nan told her that his son had gone elsewhere to atone for his sins, and she understood that anyone who had intimidated her brother wouldn't last. Uncle Nan's hands were already stained with blood, and all he wanted was to avenge his son. To achieve this, he was willing to be Tien Ran's guardian. 15 days had passed since the cataclysm, and the death toll had risen to 43 million. The federal government was actively mobilizing food reserves, and soilless farming technology was being put into large-scale production. Tien Ran's father called him to inform him that Tai Nu had died, and now the mutation process had accelerated. The military police headquarters had captured a level 5 mutated beast in the southern mountains. This was unusual, as the highest level they had previously investigated was level 3, which had been the result of B's artificial catalysis. In the deep mountains and old forests where there was no human intervention, radioactive vegetation was abundant. Even the lowest level species that cannibalized each other had accelerated the intensity of mutation. Due to this, existing human technology was vulnerable to an unknown natural evolution. Therefore, his father assigned him to Tai Nu's laboratory. He wanted him to combine his technology with Tai Nu's in order to extract the virus. The records from 2 days ago were completely normal, and the cause of Tai Nu's death was believed to be related to those 2 days. However, Tai Nu had deleted the surveillance records from that period, so all leads had been lost. Today was the day the vice president was supposed to receive the new head and show him the location for the new institute. The new head was Bai, and he had come along with his assistant, Kui. He asked her to take him to the location of the new institute on the farm. Tien Ran had unlocked a variety of edible fish, including rare species that were difficult to obtain before the apocalypse. They couldn't afford to eat such fish before, but now they could have as many as they wanted. They planned to use an excavator to dig a pond. First, they marked the land with a line, and Uncle Man asked how old Zohai was, because he had grown much bigger than before. This was strange, as he was already an adult and shouldn't be growing further. Tien Ran realized that Zohai had grown thanks to the radiation-processed crops. The notification warned him of 3 visitors with a threat level of 8. The visitors were the Vice President Bai and his assistant Kui. They had come because Bai liked the location of the farm. It was very large. After a few minutes, Tien Ran arrived. Bai asked him to open the door, saying they needed to discuss an important matter. Tien Ran refused, saying he was busy. The general manager of the Ran company said she had come to buy his farm. She didn't care about the price, whether it was supplies or a house in the city center. Tien Ran refused because he liked living on the farm and had no intention of selling it, even for a mountain of gold. Kui got angry and banged on the door. The security system activated, but Tien Ran told it not to attack. At that moment, Bai approached and slapped him, telling him not to act this way without permission. Seeing this, Tien Ran asked Kui to come closer and then punched him. Since Kui had hit his door, now they were even. Tien Ran asked them to leave if they had no other business to discuss. Upon seeing that he was not willing to sell the farm, Bai apologized for the intrusion and gave him his phone number in case he changed his mind. After this, the 3 of them left. Tien Ran had not expected the people from Ran Pharmaceuticals to find his farm so quickly. The visit might have been to assess the situation or just a coincidence. To clarify his doubts, he ordered the hummingbird robot to follow them. Now there were only 10 days left until the next destruction season. The crop area was producing steadily, and the aquatic area had started to be excavated. Currently, they didn't have much meat stored, so they needed to develop a livestock area as soon as possible. Tien Yuan prepared a meal using the frozen meat he had, and Hanan prepared a sesame sauce. Now that it was winter, Uncle Nan told them not to wear such light clothing and warned that they couldn't afford to eat meat every day, as the food they had wouldn't last long at that pace. Tien Ran shared one of his secrets with him. He revealed that the food they had was not ordinary. If a person consumed it regularly, their body would undergo changes like not feeling cold, improved physical capacity, and even the development of unusual abilities. Now that Uncle Man had started to consume this food, Tien Ran was eager to see the changes it would produce in his body. Upon hearing all of this, Uncle Man thought he had stepped into a sci-fi movie. Currently, reality had become somewhat like science fiction due to the disaster. The food didn't grant them superpowers, but rather evolved them. Chen Yuan told him that the people from Pharmaceuticals had paid him a visit earlier. Upon hearing this, Uncle Nan trembled in fear and thought that the only way a useless old man like him could stand up to them was by eating the farm's food to become stronger. That same night, Tian Ran left the farm on his motorcycle and headed toward the hummingbird's location. Ran took Bai to her villa and told them that tomorrow she would find them a new home. Then she went to rest in her own room, while being followed by the hummingbird the entire time. At first, she thought it was just a mosquito, so she ignored it and took a hot shower. After admiring her beauty in the mirror, she began to apply a facial mask while the hummingbird flew by her side. Eventually, she started to feel tired. By paying more attention to the sound, she realized it wasn't a mosquito, but a beetle. She opened the window to see if it would fly outside. As she breathed in the fresh air, she saw Tian Ran next to her window. Quickly, he entered through the window and covered Ren's mouth to prevent her from calling the bodyguards. Then he clarified that he was going to release her, but warned her not to try asking for help, as he could end her life before the bodyguards could arrive. Ren told him that he could take all the money on the table, along with the jewelry and gold. She was willing to cooperate with him if he didn't harm her. With the money and jewelry, he could buy food for a long time, but unfortunately, he hadn't come for the money. Hearing this, Ren thought he had come to abuse her, so she began making all sorts of excuses to avoid it. Tian Ran covered her mouth again and asked for information about the person responsible for Tainu's murder. Despite all of Kan's informants being dead, she didn't know where he had come from, so she asked if he was one of Kan's men. He replied that Tainu had done him a great favor in the past, and that's why he now wanted to avenge his death. He had recently heard that Rain had been investigating the cause of Tainu's death, so he had come to her house to obtain information. Ren told him that both she and the police had investigated the case but couldn't determine who the killer was. Upon hearing this, Team Ren tried to blame her, saying that after Tainu's death she had taken his place. She defended herself, saying he had no evidence to blame her. She also told him that Tainu had made many enemies lately, so it wasn't surprising that someone had taken his life in revenge. Currently, she had no suspects because Tainu had destroyed all the documents and surveillance recordings related to recent conspiracies, so without a lead it was impossible to determine the suspect. As they talked, Tianran began to hear footsteps, so he quickly knocked Run out. The footsteps were from the housekeeper and Chi, who started forcing the door. After several seconds, they broke the door and entered the room, but to their surprise, Tianran had already escaped through the window in time. He climbed down from the window without making a sound, but still ran into Bai. Tianran was surprised to see that he had been discovered, despite leaving no trace. Bai told him that he knew of his presence thanks to Ren's window gravity detector. He explained that he had predicted the culprit would jump out the window after being discovered to avoid a direct confrontation. While Bai was distracted, Tianran took the opportunity to attack him using his fist, but to his surprise, Bai blocked the attack with his knee. The arm bone couldn't compare to that of the knee, and according to Bai's calculations, Tianran's arm should have been broken due to the direct impact of 700 kel the jaw. However, despite this, he showed no signs of injury. Confused, Bai asked for an explanation. Upon realizing that Bai knew how to fight, Tianran understood that despite his now enhanced physical abilities surpassing those of an ordinary person, he couldn't win against Bai. He was also running out of time, so he told Bai that he didn't have time this round, but next time, he was going to beat him up. Bai quickly attempted to attack him, not wanting to let him escape, but to his surprise, Tianran threw dust in Bai's eyes, leaving him without vision. Taking advantage of Bai's disorientation, Tianran made his escape. After several seconds, the bodyguards arrived in the garden. Bai realized that Tianran was a very intelligent man and that his physical condition was perfect. The bodyguards helped Bai to his feet, and he told them not to pursue Tianran as he was very fast. After washing his eyes, Bai went to Ran's room to check on her condition. Then he prescribed some medication and instructed the maid not to call the police, as they had no evidence at the moment. One of the bodyguards entered the room and informed him that the thief had stolen his hard drive. Using his motorcycle, Tianran left the villa and went home. Upon arriving, he turned on his laptop, disconnected it from the internet, and connected the hard drive. The folder containing the data was labeled Experiment Notes, and it was not a confidential file from Rand Pharmaceuticals. According to the report, although many living beings had died, Bai still firmly believed that radioactive food caused changes in the body. In his view, the beings that had died had simply taken the wrong path in their evolution, and that's why they had died midway. He firmly believed he could find the right path and was willing to sacrifice human lives to achieve this goal. If he achieved this objective, he believed he could lead humanity toward a new civilization in the wake of this disaster, and humans could compare themselves to gods, with their lives extending up to 300 years. Bai attempted to trace any signal from the hard drive but was unsuccessful. To ease Q's worries, he told him that the hard drive wasn't of great importance to him, as it only contained some old data. However, Bai knew that if someone were to read the reports, people would discover the true reason he had come to Nang. According to Qi, everything seemed very strange, since they had just arrived in Nang and had already been attacked. He asked Bai if it could be the work of person number 7. Bai told him that if number 7 had wanted to harm them, he wouldn't have sent a rook. The person who had stolen the hard drive had great physical abilities, but his skills were those of a novice. After reading the reports, Tien Ran realized that Bai shared the same thoughts as him, and he immediately understood that experiments on humans had already begun. The next day, in the courtyard, animals of level 1 began to appear. Upon seeing the animals, Han Hen asked Tien Ran where they had come from. Tien Ran thought it was too complicated for Han Hen to understand the system, so he told her that he had a magical pocket from which he could take out anything. Han Hen instantly understood this. Upon seeing her reaction, Tien Ran told her that this was a secret and no one else should know about it except her. In the meantime, she started to paint a rabbit. Upon seeing this, Tien Ran got upset and told her not to play with food. She didn't consider them food because they were very adorable. Upon hearing this, Tien Ran began to name her favorite foods and told her not to get attached to food, as loss could be painful. Han Han listened to him and returned the rabbit. At that moment, a system window appeared to inform him that the farming area had produced a rare product called Autonomous. He headed to the cornfield and found the albino corn, which was an extremely rare mutant product with a 1 in 100,000 chance of appearing. Consuming this corn would put a person in a state of fury, increasing their strength, speed, and reflexes tenfold for 20 seconds. This corn was just like Popeye's spinach. Tien Ran began to look for more, hoping to find additional rare crops. After searching for a while, he found nothing, as this type of rare item was very hard to obtain. To increase the probability of finding more rare items, Tien Ran initially considered increasing the planting density by 50%. However, he thought it was better not to do so, as it would reduce the quality and yield of the crops, making the seedlings weak. His best option was to continue working honestly. Meanwhile, Ren finally recovered. Upon thinking about what had happened, she became furious and was determined to catch the culprit and give him a punishment. If she wanted to discover the culprit's identity, she couldn't use conventional means. Luckily, she found a strand of Tien Ran's hair that had stuck to her clothing. She went down to the living room where Bai was sipping tea and thanked him because the massage technique he had taught her had worked. She no longer felt any pain. She also told him that she had chosen a new location for his laboratory near the farm they had visited, as it was a peaceful and isolated place. Bai thanked her, but he knew she had come to ask for something more. She wanted Bai to help her find a person in Nang who had the same DNA as the hair sample she had. According to Bai, using a hair to find a person was like searching for a needle in a haystack, because it would take a lot of time and resources to collect hair samples from all the citizens of Nang. Bai asked her if that person was very important to her. She replied that the person wasn't very important. She just wanted to find the bandit who had attacked her. Upon hearing this, Bai said it wasn't difficult and he was willing to help her catch the culprit. The next day, Bai went to the experiment room, where the scientist injected a 10% dilution reagent into an experimental subject. The muscle fibers of the subject began to thicken, and cellular activity increased thousands of times. The system started collecting data from the subject, and little by little, the experimental subject began to change. The first change occurred when his corneas multiplied, and then his eyes. The system informed Bai that this was a compound eye, and also that the test subject's genes had been contaminated by other organisms. The body of the experimental subject began to mutate and suddenly grow, causing him to lose total control of his body, leading him to madness. Due to the enormous strength that the subject had developed, he broke free from the chains. Gradually, he started to become even more insane and began hitting the glass in the room where Bai was observing the experiment. The system informed him that the V-shaped virus was a complete failure. Then, the subject started hitting the protective glass of the experiment room. Several seconds later, it shattered into pieces. The subject slowly began to approach the room where Bai was, but at that moment, Bai gave the order to the system to destroy the subject. The system then used some chemicals and made the subject's body explode into pieces. Meanwhile, in a mansion in the city, a private party was taking place with very important businessmen from the city. Among the guests present at the party were 3 children talking. The children asked their friend named Jingming why he had left his little brother alone. Jingming replied that he didn't consider him his brother because he was useless. Jingming's brother was Bai, who was alone and leaning against a pillar. The 2 children, upon seeing that Jingming didn't consider Bai his brother, decided to mock him. They grabbed him by the head and started drowning him in the mansion's fountain. While they were drowning him, they mocked him, calling him a coward. At that moment, Jingming appeared and asked them to be careful not to leave any marks on him, since even though he was useless, he still belonged to the family. As a member of the family, he had to live up to his parents' expectations. The children pulled Bai out of the water and reassured him not to worry. With water in his eyes and mouth, Bai looked at Jingming and asked him to let him go, addressing him as brother. Upon hearing the word brother, Jingming became furious and ordered the 2 boys to drown him again. Bai woke up in the middle of the night begging his brother not to hit him. Realizing that it had all been a dream, he calmed down. Then, while looking at the cooling tank containing the V-virus, he thought that the virus was becoming more stable each time. This meant that soon he could create the perfect mutant to defeat his older brother. At the same time, a newsman informed all viewers that it was now the 19th day since the appearance of the V-virus. He also revealed the discovery of 100 mutated cattle corpses in Nanai City. While Hanhan was watching the news with Zohai, Tianran caught her attention and asked why she was watching the news instead of cartoons, and when she had started doing that, Hanhan replied that her brother always treated her like a little girl. She also explained that she was now paying attention to the catastrophe as she couldn't hide behind her older brother forever. Upon hearing this, Tianran was slightly surprised and praised her, saying that Hanhan could already receive people's bad thoughts, which was helping her older brother. Hanhan hugged Zohai and explained that she wanted to grow up quickly to help her brother even more. She also added that Zohai was becoming stronger every day, so she no longer had to worry about becoming strong herself. Taijun Ran thought to himself that, after observing this period of time, Zohai showed no tendency to become violent. He concluded that the change in body shape was due to the evolution of radiation protection and agriculture. He sighed and felt a little relieved. He also explained to Hanhan that he and Uncle Nan were going to continue digging the pond, and he advised her that if she got hungry, she could look for snacks in the fridge. He left, and after an hour, while Hanhan was lying on top of Zohai, she started feeling hungry. Looking around, she saw a box on the table. She began wondering what was inside. The box contained 2 level 4 divine grain seeds. She approached the table and upon opening the box, thought the seeds looked like shiny nuts. Now that she had them, she started seeing the seeds as a delicious meal. Without thinking twice, she took both seeds. She brought one seed to Zohai's mouth and explained that now they both could eat one. With one hand, she put the seed in her own mouth, and with the other hand, she put the seed in Zohai's mouth. Immediately, she spat out her seed because it was very bitter, and with her other hand, she pushed Zohai, causing him to swallow the seed in the process. After eating the seed, Zohai lay down on the ground and slowly began to feel sleepy. Without thinking twice, he decided to go to sleep. That same night, noises of breaking boards started coming from the warehouse. Due to the noises, Uncle Nan woke up and decided to check what was happening. When he turned on the flashlight, he saw a trail of blood on the floor. Following the trail, he saw that a mutant animal was hiding in a corner. Upon seeing the light, the animal looked at Uncle Nan with a murderous gaze. He got scared and started wondering what had happened and how a mutant animal had entered the farm. What he didn't know was that this animal was Zohai, who quickly jumped up and tried to attack. Uncle Nan managed to react in time and dodged the attack at the last second, causing Zohai's body to collide with the wall. His flashlight fell to the ground, and when Uncle Nan tried to pick it up, he realized that the mutant creature was a black dog. Upon seeing this, he began to wonder if it was Zohai, who had now grown much bigger and had gone mad. He had red eyes, large sharp fangs, and claws as sharp as knives. Zohai started staring at Uncle Man, making him feel scared. He quickly realized that Zohai had mutated into something like a wolf. At first, he wondered if it was just a mutation, but then he thought it couldn't be. Zohai was different from ordinary mutant beasts. Seeing that Zohai showed no signs of attacking again, Uncle Nan tried to calm him down. He extended his hand and explained that he was Uncle Man, but instead of calming down, Zohai took on an offensive stance and started looking in all directions. Seeing his reaction, Uncle Man slowly approached him to pet him and asked if he was hungry. He tried to calm him by saying not to be afraid and that he would bring him some food. Zohai began to growl and bark, making Uncle Man realize that he was in danger, but to his surprise, instead of attacking him, Zohai jumped out the window, breaking the glass in the process. This left Uncle Man both surprised and confused. He started shouting at Zohai not to go toward the door since it was made of iron and the walls were electrified with fences. But just before he could finish speaking, Zohai stood in front of the door, gained momentum, and began climbing the wall. With a big leap, he managed to avoid being electrocuted by the electric fence and finally escaped from the farm, leaving Uncle Man with his mouth open, wondering how he had managed to climb such a high wall so easily. Chen Yuan also left the house because of the broken window glass and asked Uncle Nan what had happened. He replied that Zohai was in trouble and explained that he had suddenly gone crazy and run out of the farm. Uncle Nan then asked Chen Yuan why Zohai had suddenly gone mad and why he looked different from ordinary mutant beasts. He also added that, even in that mutant form, Zohai was still able to recognize him, which left Chen Yuan surprised. Han also came out of the house and explained that Zohai had left because when she woke up she saw that he wasn't by her side. Chen Yuan reassured her not to worry, and explained that Zohai had probably gotten bored of staying at home for so long and would return after taking a short walk. He also asked her to go back inside and sleep, assuring her that everything would be fine. But instead of listening, Han replied that Zohai never left her side when she slept. She also asked what Uncle Nam meant when he said that Zohai had changed. Chen Yuan looked at her feet and noticed she was barefoot, so he asked why she had left the house without shoes. He picked her up in his arms and she explained that she was worried about Zohai because she didn't want him to become like Se. Chen Yuan asked her not to overthink it and inquired if Zohai had eaten anything special recently. Han explained that she always remembered what her older brother said, that all they could eat was farm food. She also added that the only special thing Zohai had eaten was what was inside a glowing walnut box. Chen Yuan thought it must have been that level 4 divine seed and quickly concluded that Zohai must have evolved. He also began to question why Zohai had gone crazy. He called the system and asked if eating agricultural seeds version 4 had any side effects that caused organisms to lose control of their bodies, but unfortunately for him, the system did not respond. He told Han that he would go and promised her that he would bring Zohai back. He asked her to be good and go back to bed with Uncle Nam Batrick. Han started crying and asked Chen Yuan if he was really going to bring Zohai back. Upon hearing this, he reassured her by saying not to worry because he was going to take care of bringing Zohai back since he was part of the family. At the same time, while Zohai was running through the forest near the farm, he began to feel very hot and developed a strong desire for fresh meat. Zohai couldn't control his animal instincts and wanted to bite the throat of every living being. However, he still decided to restrain himself, as he couldn't tan humans. If he did, he could never return to his little master. While running through the forest, a person wearing a white hood and belonging to a cult saw him. Upon seeing Zohai, the man quickly realized that it was a holy beast. The man smiled and thought that this must really be the sacred beast of the oracle, which meant that if he managed to capture it, his god would be very pleased. At the same time, Chen Yuan left the farm on his motorcycle and his security guards informed him that Zohai was not in the area. Upon hearing this, he began to wonder why Zohai was not there. He thought that he had to find him quickly because if the military police discovered him, Zohai would be eliminated. At that moment, someone caught his attention. It was an elderly woman wearing a hood who belonged to the same cult as the man from before. She approached Chen Yuan and asked if he was looking for a black wolf dog. Chen Yuan looked at the old woman and started wondering what she was doing there. Then he asked her in which direction the dog had run. With a smile, the old woman asked Chen Yuan if he knew the truth about this disaster. Chen Yuan ignored her words and simply asked the old woman to tell him in which direction his dog had escaped. He also added that he wasn't interested in knowing anything else. Upon hearing this, the old woman explained that all of this was due to people having done too many bad things and angering the gods. As punishment, the gods had sent this disaster. She also added that the disaster would not stop until all human beings were destroyed. She told Chen Yuan that if he wanted to save himself, then he must join the self-help society and repent devoutly before God to have a chance of surviving. Chen Yuan began to wonder what kind of new missionary scam this was. Feeling curious, he asked the old woman if there were any conditions to join the self-help society. With a smile and a sinister aura, the old woman replied that the rescue association was for all. Living beings also had a hierarchical membership system. Different levels required different membership fees. She explained that the fee ranged from 300 to 300,000. The higher the fee, the higher the level would be, and the closer one could be to God. With higher levels, salvation probabilities would increase. As the old woman knew that Chen Yuan was the owner of the holy beast, she told him that in order to join the society, he only had to bring the holy beast. Chen Yuan mocked the old woman by telling her that if she had so much free time, then she should learn more about brainwashing and deception before using them to deceive people. Internally, he began to wonder if the old woman was referring to Zohai as the holy beast. The old woman got angry and asked Chen Yuan if he was disrespecting God. Instead of wasting any more time, he started his motorcycle and apologized to the old woman, saying that she had arrived a little late to the party and he no longer had time to play with her. He also asked her if salvation was through pets. While riding away from her on the motorcycle, he explained that the only thing that would save him in this world was himself. While the old woman watched Chen Yuan ride away on the motorcycle, she thought to herself that those who did not believe in God were going to fall into hell forever. The next day, while Chen Yuan was smoking a cigarette next to his truck, he heard a sound coming from some bushes nearby. As he approached the bushes, he saw a wolf cub next to its mother's corpse. He thought she had been hit by a car while crossing the road. Upon closer inspection, he noticed that the mother wolf was dead and her little cub was trying to nurse for milk, as it was very hungry. Chen Yuan sat down and picked up the still-alive puppy. He realized that the mother wolf had been dead for several days. He thought that the puppy was very tenacious. He picked up the puppy with both hands and felt a connection to it, since they had both lost their parents. The puppy started to fall asleep, and Chen Yuan decided to take him home with him. At the same time, Zohai arrived at a residential area and attacked a guard by biting his leg. This guard was not alone, as he had two companions who were very close and armed, ready to protect him from Zohai's attack. One of the guards asked his friend to hold on a little longer. He ran to the laboratory, and after several minutes, Bei came out of his lab and asked how a mutated beast could have entered the area. One of the guards explained that Ziwu had become addicted to smoking and had gone to the forest to smoke. He threw his cigarette butt at the beast, which caused it to become violent and start hurting people. Began questioning how the beast could have caused such a disaster. The guard also explained that the beast was hidden in the grass, which is why Ziwu didn't see it. He informed him that they had already contacted the military police to take care of the beast. Baz quickly turned to the guard and asked if the mutant beast was really hidden in the grass, to which the guard responded affirmatively. Upon hearing this, Bai thought that low-level mutant beasts simply roamed by following the body heat of living creatures without reason. He realized that this beast must be a high-level mutant beast. Furthermore, he noticed that it had only bitten the guard's leg instead of killing him. Therefore, he quickly concluded that this beast knew the danger of weapons and was trying to use the guard's safety as a means to stop them. This made it an extremely intelligent mutant beast. He thought that if they captured and studied it in the laboratory, they could overcome the instability of the V-virus. He looked at Zohai and wondered if it was the perfect mutant creature he had been looking for. He gave the order to the guard to call everyone, as they needed to capture the mutated beast alive before the military and police arrived in the area. Biff smiled and also asked the guards to equip themselves with anesthesia guns and sedatives, as they needed to capture the beast alive at all costs. One of the guards gave Biben a sedative gun, and he ordered everyone to be careful and only aim for the limbs. B aimed his sedative gun at Zohai and, after stabilizing his pulse, he shot. But to his surprise, Zohai immediately realized he was in danger and jumped away, dodging all the sedative darts. One guard took advantage of Zohai being in the air to shoot a sedative dart into his tail. Zohai then attacked the injured guard, who narrowly evaded the attack, but started reloading his gun with more sedative darts, and Zohai took this opportunity to quickly flee into the forest. At the same time, Hummingbird number 2 informed Tianran about the discovery of large dog tracks 700 meters southeast. He quickly turned his motorcycle and headed southeast. Once he arrived at the area, he got off the motorcycle and saw giant dog tracks on the ground, with blood stains that were still fresh. It didn't take him long to realize that the tracks belonged to Zohai. He began to wonder what had happened and how Zohai had been injured so severely. At the same time, Buddy and the guards began to follow Zohai in off-road vehicles. Seeing Zohai's incredible speed, Bai leaned out of the car window and thought that no mutated beast could move at such a fast pace. He couldn't help but smile as it was becoming more and more exciting.